All right. Very excited to have the founders of Nama Private Wealth for today's podcast regarding the Halal Money Podcast. This is Tanveer. I'm the host and the founder of the Halal Money Forum. I launched this organization with the mission to create awareness around Islamic finance in the West. Through this platform, we host a series of conferences. Some of them are virtual. I call it the Halal Money Show, and others are in person over a day or two. I call that the Halal Money Conference. We have events lined up in New York, New Jersey in September, as well as events in the Bay Area, middle of November. We'll share more information with that. And today I'm very excited to have the co-founders of Nama Private Wealth joining me from SoCal. They've been building this organization over the last 2 years, quite a few milestones achieved, and we'll talk about that. And they're doing stuff that is deeply impactful within the community and within the ecosystem, right? So today we'll talk about their journey as entrepreneurs. Both of them come highly accomplished in the Islamic finance space, having worked for some of the well-known institutions, whether it is Devon Bank or Saturna or Wahid Investments, and then a couple of others. And they've taken that experience, their corporate experience, launching Nama Private Wealth. So without further ado, Saad and Ali, welcome to the Halal Money Podcast.
Thank you, Tanveer. It's an honor to be on, and always very excited to be helping create content for the community. As you mentioned, both Saad and I, we've been in this space working directly with the Muslim community for a number of years, both on the investment side, the Islamic finance side, and alhamdulillah, we've seen the community rapidly grow. We've seen the demand for more products, more service. And yeah, we're excited to be on and to talk to you more about it.
Yes, Raghav, Tanvi, thank you for having us. We're excited about this.
Now, I was really looking forward to this. And one of the fun things about doing a podcast is not only I learn, but a whole bunch of folks from within the ecosystem can learn about you all as entrepreneurs and the work you're doing, your future plans, and all of that, right? And we also talk a little bit about the bigger picture within Islamic financing or halal investing and stuff like that, right? So yeah, this is going to be a great 40 minutes to 1 hour. To set the stage for our conversation, would love to hear about what inspired you to launch Nama Private Wealth.
Sure. I'll just start off by saying that it's this has been years in the making in terms of from my background, and then meeting Saad a little bit over a decade ago, and really just sharing the same vision and knowing that there's a big need in our community. So we've been fortunate enough to see a number of different products and services offered, but there was still a void, right? So even dating back to when I was with Saturna Capital with the Amana Mutual Funds, it's great that there's products out there now serving the community. But beyond that, there was no further handholding or someone in the community to be able to guide them and say, for example, we would have clients that would reach out and say, hey, I'm just retired. I have my life savings in Amana's funds. How much should I put in the growth fund? How much should I put in the income fund? And what I noticed is that there was not enough guidance out there. Even though we were licensed, we weren't allowed to give proper advice and put together proper financial plan and to help ask the other important questions on whether they have a will, have they set up a trust, do they own real estate, etc. So there was just a complete lacking of not only resources but also just financial literacy in the community. So when I met Saad for the first time, over a decade ago, when he came out to visit in California, both of us shared that that insight in the community and what the need is. And we kind of talked about what we felt the community needs. And fast forward a few years later, we sat down at the table, and not only did we form a very close friendship, but we figured out a way to work together to better the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to that, Tamim bhai, what I'll add from Ali's perspective, one of the things we both kept finding, and we had our careers parallel, basically. I did the same thing, studied accounting, worked in private equity, worked in New York during 08-09 market crash as a trader, basically, then moved to Chicago, worked in the Board of Trade, got a job at a wealth management firm. Then I discovered the Sharia compliant halal investment space in US. I didn't even know it existed, quite honestly, in the US, because in UK it's talked about a lot, so you're kind of aware of it. And that led to me working with Wahid Invest as well, helping expand the robo online platform for Muslims. But to Ali's point, these questions kept coming up with people that, look, it's all well and good. I have access to Amana funds in my 4K. If I have a small account, I can park some money in Wahid. It's diversified for me, done. What more can be done for me to make sure my wealth is growing the right way? So wealth management per se, and asset management and financial planning is what made us build Nama Private Wealth, is to provide that high-level holistic service that otherwise it's just people being told, put mutual funds here, put some ETFs and you're done. In reality, it takes a lot more than that. So that was the gap that we kept finding. And as we met up for our first business meeting, literally not knowing each other, to becoming, like Ali said, good friends, we kept realizing this gap is not being fulfilled. So that is why we launched Nama Private Wealth, to fill probably the most important gap of all, which is how wealth preservation and wealth growth should be done.
Before you made that decision, I'm sure you did a fair amount of research. How big of a market do you think it is right now? I did a little bit of research on the overall private wealth market in the US, and I think the number that that came up through, say, searches was about 30 trillion, and I believe there's another 80, like there's $84 trillion of wealth transfer that'll happen one generation to another. But since you'll focus a lot on the serving the Muslim community, were you able to uncover, like, hey, I think this is the size for the private wealth market, within North American Muslims?
Sure. I think the numbers can be debated. What was very clear to us was that it's in its infancy. We noticed that this is just rapid growth, rapid demand. We were speaking with someone down in Florida who's developed real estate property that's quickly identified that conservative lifestyle resorts are in high demand, right? So I think it's a paradigm shift. Us recognizing, we can debate what those numbers are. We know it's significant, but the most important thing is that it's very underserved and it's really in its infancy. So it's just ripe right now for the community's asking for it. So we've noticed quickly that starting off with a brand new name and Nama Private Wealth, just having that vision and being able to articulate to members of the community that this is what we're doing, that we've seen a very warm welcome to it and a big demand for it.
The one thing to factor that in, that because we were working in the industry, we didn't have to worry about data as much as the need that kept coming up over and over. But in general, the US Islamic financing market back in 2024 was about $793 million. The CAGR growth was about 8.5% on average. In the last sort of just 7 to 8 years, we've seen a huge expansion in the halal economy space. So that conversation is already happening. And then, like you nailed it by saying that the generational shift that's happening, we have clients coming in their 20s and 30s saying that I want you to manage my parents' money because I'm not going to work with their advisor. Verbatim, that's what people have said to us. So parents are coming to us by saying, my kid is like kind of working with you. They loved how you built a financial plan for them. Can you please help me? We have a call tomorrow with a widower, basically, whose young daughter is like, I want you guys to manage her money so that me and my brother can then work with you guys moving forward. So it's almost like recognizing the importance of the generational shift, but then the demand has become so immense that, it's really a no-brainer in terms of worrying about data, but it's more about how and where it can be serviced the right way.
And one last thing to add too is that, as Saad is saying, the next generations are quickly noticing that the success of the Jewish community, the success of the Chinese is in keeping, growing your own economy, right? And working with members of your own community that understand you, that understand what your values are. And that's what's sustained a lot of growth in those communities. So I think the next generations are noticing that and realizing that, hey, it's not about finding someone that has the lowest fees necessarily. It's someone that knows their stuff and understands what our values are and working directly with them.
No, well said. And I think that the appetite is definitely there. I don't want to take names. A well-known, relatively like a new age, not relatively new, but a new age, wealth management firm, a lot more tech savvy compared to some of the legacy, companies out there. While they're not Islamic, but they had one advisor whose job was to serve the Muslim community. So I think that's validation that, and if we don't do it, someone else would. I believe in that.
100%. 100%. Yes.
Of all the things y'all could do, y'all pick this. And this is this is great. So I think it's a good segue to talk about the Islamic wealth management side versus conventional wealth management. For the benefit of for our listeners, right? Why don't you walk us through what is Nama Private Wealth, right? And at a high level, some of the services that you'll offer.
Sure, I can start it, and then Saad, you can probably plug in any of the gaps that I may miss. But really, it starts from the beginning, right? It's almost like from the cradle to the grave, in a sense, where we work with one of our clients has children. We work in setting up their educational savings accounts. When someone graduates from college, we can work with them on setting up a financial plan, helping them negotiate contracts with their, we have some physicians, for example, that, that just completed residency, that are starting their first job with one of the hospitals. And negotiating the contracts, just taking a look at those, right? I think in the past it's been, our community's always just been, they didn't have resources to really to lean on to get asked for advice. So I think for us we want to fill in all of those gaps and help them from their first career to how to exit their businesses, for example, or in the retirement, how to set up, income stream for life that they can, they don't have to worry about, relying on their children to take care of them, or, looking at Social Security or Medicaid, those type of things. So just, putting together a proper plan, no matter how old our client is or how affluent they are. Of course, our focus in the Muslim community is on the high net worth and ultra high net worth. But at the same time, we take on clients that may not be in that category immediately, but, we try to help them get on the right path for that.
And I'm glad you're doing that, because I think it's a nice way to build our relationship also. Go ahead, brother Saad.
100% it is. Yeah, no. And I think a lot of times people ask us, what does Nama mean? So Nama, it means sustenance. And that was the whole purpose of it, is to create sustainability as your wealth grows. So you focus on wealth preservation and wealth diversification. Being wealth managers, it allows us to take a deep dive into estate plan for someone, which is what Nama started from. That they just understand people's financial problems now and find gaps for them. You have a lot of wealth, but you have no trust or will. Something happens to you tomorrow, you're gone. We came through a situation meeting up someone during Ramadan who said, I know of a sister whose husband passed away with a ridiculous amount of money in Bitcoin that he bought in early 2000, but the wife has no idea how and where it's kept. She has young kids, husband passed away, this money could be life changing. They never hired a financial advisor to work with them, and they have no idea. We were like, do they have a trust or a will? No, they don't. There's a term called dead box. So we talk about that a lot with people, that make sure you have a dead box prepared aside from just a trust, to kind of secure all of your assets and their information. So that's who we've become. The Nama Private Wealth is to make sure that there's sustenance in one's wealth, and as it's growing, to make it grow the right way, the halal way, in a diversified way. And our specialty is the alternative investment space. So we kind of focus on that, focusing in the Muslim startup ecosystem, focusing in private real estate deals, focusing on alternative structured products that we build out for our clients. So we create more unique products while still focusing on the bigger picture, which is estate planning, asset protection, and then everything else around that. So you could be an individual, you could be a family, you could be a family that owns a business, you could be someone that exited a business, like Ali said, and needs to understand, how do I limit my tax liabilities? We, alhamdulillah, have access to those resources at a high level. Considering I worked at Morgan Stanley before Ali worked at Merrill Lynch, we bring that experience together to build a big umbrella for our clients. And that umbrella is to protect their assets, inshallah, in the right way.
That makes sense. So I guess you'll do everything to help preserve that wealth and grow it, right? It's protection and growing it, right? Right. Do you all primarily focus on the Muslim community, or you'll take on non-Muslim customers too? Are you like pure play community focused?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll take on any clients. We have no bias, obviously. But alhamdulillah, Saad and I have worked directly in the community for so long that we have so many connections in the community that naturally that's our market. It's not that we're actively advertising it. Matter of fact, if you go to our website, there's no mentioning of Sharia compliant investing or anything of that nature. It's more about values based. More ethical source investments, right? So from that standpoint, we cast a wide net, but at the same time, naturally, we're very embedded in our community and providing them the right resources.
And with that be said, that all of our business that has grown, I think actually thinking about, you're the first major podcast that we're actually doing in the last 2 years of running Nama Private Wealth. We launched it 3 years ago, took a full year to establish exactly what we want to do, how we want to offer it, and whom we want to offer it. So we're selective who we work with. We want them to be selective when they're working with us. And at the same time, everything comes through referral. We've had a couple of non-Muslim clients referred to us through our Muslim clients, and we accepted them, but we said that we have certain parameters that we cannot cross over. And that is something you have to be okay with, because it's more ethical, socially conscious, and earth-friendly focused way of investing, pretty much.
Yeah, I get a lot of inspiration from in Malaysia, right? Because Malaysia is such a diverse country, and it's a great place, actually. There, a lot of the Islamic products are consumed by non-Muslims as well, right? Because they like the transparency, they like the, obviously the services, the returns, and all of that, right? So that's the hope, right? That, that this, where you can call it ethical finance, you can call it Islamic finance. At some point, it also gets some of that mainstream, like it attracts the mainstream, right? Since we're talking about Islamic wealth management, how does Islamic wealth management differ from conventional wealth management, and why should Muslims consider it, right?
Yeah, I think it starts with the ethics, right? And values. I mean, for us, the initial part is, how are you making your money? Are you making your money in a halal way? How are you investing your money? Are you investing in a halal way? So just knowing that it's based on ethics. And then for us, for Saad and I, it goes beyond that as well, right? In terms of course, you have the Sharia compliant aspect of it, making sure, we don't invest in any bonds or interest bearing products. Beyond that, from an ethical standpoint, from a humanitarian standpoint, are you investing in companies that are investing in the IDF, for example, or investing into occupied territories, and whether it's, investing in firearms, those type of things. So it goes beyond just the Sharia compliant aspect of it. It's more value-based ethics that, that at the end of the day that you're comfortable with how you're making your money, how you're spending your money, and how you're investing your money.
And can you talk about some of the misconceptions that are out there around, Sharia compliant investing?
I think that, the misconceptions that have always been there are that, you're limiting yourself to how much money you can make or what you can, what type of returns you can get. I think luckily over the last, 10, 15 years, I think that's been debunked a bit. And then, it goes beyond that too, right? So I think for us, if you kind of track how our, performance has been over the overall markets, we have, our clients aren't very concerned of that. But more importantly, we believe in barakah, right? It's about, you're making that money, but how much of that money is ethical and blessed, right? So, I mean, you can have really high returns, but if there's no barakah in it, that money's not going to go far, right? We truly believe that to the core, that, if there's barakah in it, whatever the return is, it's going to be substantial.
And how do you ensure that the investments are Sharia compliant?
I mean, we work off of AOFI standards. So, both Saad and I come from that background, right? So, with my time at Amana Mutual Funds, Saad being at both Azad and Wahid, we come from that background of understanding what those guidelines are and how to invest accordingly.
And I think nowadays, in 2016, 15, when I was with Azad Asset Management, it was one thing. You needed a Sharia compliant board in-house to justify your investments as being Sharia compliant. Even though AOFI, like Ali said, has their guidelines called Sharia Rule number 21, if you're willing to follow those guidelines properly, the trust and belief is there then at that point that you're doing the right thing for me. When I was at Wyatt Invest, we had to build out a board. I was the first one to work with Sheikh Yasir Qadi at the time to come on our board and provide educational information about what makes an investment halal. As we're doing more boutique private wealth management work, and that's very important for people to know, that allows us to customize anything we want. We've come such a long way that there are many other products and services now that can make an investment halal quite easily, or for you to screen them. So we utilize other tools that other Muslims have built now to be able to build out a Sharia compliant portfolio. Some still prefer that they want to have an active board and so on, but the reality is that also seeps into that one misconception that, you were asking for me by earlier, that what are the misconceptions about halal investing, is that the fees are really high. Well, fees can be quite competitive. We're very competitive in what we do, not because we want to undermine our own value, but because we want to give the most fair value out there to people. But the more folks you have working on something, the more mouths you have to feed, the more expensive the service will be. Nowadays, there are enough tools out there to build a Sharia compliant portfolio, provided people know what they're building and what they're doing. And alhamdulillah, that's what allows Ali and I to do, basically.
Now, it's never easy building a wealth management firm, right? It's very trust based. People are trusting you with their lifetime earnings, their lifetime income, their lifetime investments, etc. But I think there's a further level of complexity because of the Sharia, compliance part, right? So, what are some of the biggest challenges you had to overcome, right? Building and scaling, a wealth management firm.
Yeah, I think that the trust part is big, right? So I think luckily, we've been in the industry for a number of years, both as advisors, but representing large institutions, on the mutual fund side and the ETF side. So, it's those relationships that we've built over a long period of time, and that trust we've built over a long period of time. That's, clients have felt that, hey, look, why would I go somewhere else when I know this person, I have experience with this person and trust in this person. They have the experience, they understand my values. So I think that's, to be honest with you, though, it was when Saad and I first started, we didn't know how long it would take to kind of get the trust and support of the community. But alhamdulillah, it's been very humbling that that we've had as much success as we had at such an early stage, and we don't take that for granted. We understand that trust, with that trust, it comes with big responsibilities. So for us, it's, especially working with the high net worth and ultra high net worth demographic, it's about capital preservation, making sure we're preserving that capital, not putting it at risk, and of course, being compliant, but also figuring out ways of just non-market correlated investments as well. So we work diligently to not just track what the S&P 500 is doing, but also find non-market correlated assets that will help our clients sleep easy at night, right? So we do this in various forms, whether it's creating structured products, or whether it's finding again non-equity based private equity deals and investments into real estate, etc. So that's been primarily our focus, and the clients have seen that and seen the value in what we're providing, which is separated us from some of the competition we have.
And I think the one thing I'll add to that, to Ali's point, is that after spending a substantial amount of time career-wise, it's never difficult in worrying about, what we can or cannot do for the client. Don't do any cold outreach. Alhamdulillah, when we started, like Ali said, we just let people know that, hey, we've started our own practice. This is what we do. Alhamdulillah, things started to happen. That was the main thing. Everything we do is strictly by referral. One client will refer with someone else. They will refer a family member who will refer another friend. And that's how our practice grew, basically. And it's still growing. Now we're at a point where we're adding more people to the team. We'll be adding a couple of new advisors potentially to the team, but they have to fit the mold on what can be done. So alhamdulillah, that one challenge we haven't worried about, because again, unlike fintech platforms that rely on volume, we're not worried about volume. We're worried about serving the right kind of client with the proper service that we have to offer, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. I think that's good differentiation as well. If you've been around for a couple of years, you have a success story or two you could share where you felt there was significant impact to a client.
So I was thinking if you want to give talk about the first client we onboarded.
Yes, that's very true. I think the first client kind of set the precedence for us. We had some people we were talking to that Ali knew from before but we hadn't onboarded them yet. So to us, the first client was someone that dropped their first dollar with us when we had $0 under management. This family came up to us from Denver, Colorado. A newborn baby they had some issues during childbirth, basically, and they sued the medical practice and the doctor, basically. They were working with lawyers. We kind of got introduced in the middle of it all. So Ali and I got involved. We're like, okay, we can work with the lawyers. Our first account happens to be a special needs trust. So we were already working on a high-level estate plan for someone where a special need trust needs to be set up. This child who will have difficulties as he grows up will need financial support throughout his life. Older siblings, he's got parents, but at the same time, he needs his own financial independence as well. While they were going through the legal proceedings, and I got involved in it, basically, they were awarded about, I think, close to $900,000. But after all the legal fees and all, they were barely left with about $300,000. $600,000 was just gone in fee and everything else, roughly. So that was our first account that we had to set up, where they're like, look, the lawyers are telling us we should go to Bank A because Bank A can be the trustee for us and they're going to do the asset management. But we've been talking to you guys and we want to pull this money with you guys to manage. Can you do that for us? We were like, absolutely. So our very first account, and the win was that these parents got the comfort of their heart and mind, knowing that someone of their own type who looks like them is going to manage money in the best way possible for the benefit of their child. It was a baby, he's like 4 years old now, I think, or around. I mean, he was already like 2 years old at that time, and this was running for a few years, this case that they were trying to close upon. And that was our first client. That was a big win to know that out of everything else, and with all these big banks that the lawyers were telling them to go for, set up your trust and manage all this money there, we were just extremely pleased that they decided to move forward with us. Until this day, alhamdulillah, we have 100% track record of keeping every single client with us as well.
So if I understood that correctly, that could have been like a 600K hit, like 2/3 would have been lost in the whole process. Is that
Exactly. It was a huge hit to them because of the legal fees and everything.
And how much did you end up saving them?
Well, they've been recouping that. We can't talk about their numbers in reality about how much they have. But alhamdulillah, we were able to create, and like Ali said, that because of our specialty in structured products, we were able to build a certain portfolio that generates growth and income for this kid now that is growing, where the parents can tap into it if they want and use it without impacting the principal amount. And they know now that, okay, the future projections look like this. If such and such worst case scenario happens, All right, fair enough. So, alhamdulillah, our goal is to like make sure that this account just keeps growing in the best way possible for this young kid, basically.
Yeah, and you can imagine, the stress and emotion that was behind all of this, and then the attorneys and the courts trying to drag them to have their money invested with a specific bank that doesn't understand their values, doesn't understand what's important to them. So, alhamdulillah, we're able to get in there, and we met the family, met their children, and met the child that was affected, and so for us too, it was very emotional to be able to kind of make that impact. And every time we have conversations with them, and have calls with them and meetings with them, it's it's just a good feeling, and we can see the relief that they have, that we were able to come in and to kind of put something together that's that fits them and kind of reassure them. I think for us that it set the tone for Saad and I and Nama, and and how we approach every transaction, how we approach each client. So yeah, I think as Saad mentioned, is a lot of emotion that went into it on both sides.
No, I think this is a beautiful story, and stories like that are what will build that long-term loyalty as well, right? That you'll probably, when you get a lot of the referrals and all of that, right? I want to now move into an area that is very near and dear to me. The second part of our mission, I think in the intro I mentioned Halal Money Forum creates awareness around Islamic finance in the West, and we do events. Through the events, it allows us to put the spotlight on the organizations, the founders, the entrepreneurs in the space, right? The second aspect is working with startups, especially Islamic fintech startups. Obviously, there's a massive global opportunity with over 2 billion consumers, and there are many of these organizations will serve all of humanity, right? There's already, I see quite a few entrepreneurs who are building Islamic fintech startups, but I think the whole world could benefit from them, right? And I know you'll have made some investments in startups, so we'll probably, devote a few minutes in that area. One part of our mission is to help early stage fintech startups, get funding. We offer advisory services so that they could, go to market and help them at least to a point where they get to a Series A. I believe y'all came down to the Bay Area, to Silicon Valley, and y'all were part of the very successful Alif Summit, and you've also started investing in a few startups. So I'd love to learn about the work that you're doing with startups and what are your plans in the future for that category.
So I'll quickly just mention that one thing that we've realized is how much talent is in our community, right? And especially when you put them into together, like what the Aleph Summit did, right? You kind of see this talent all together collectively. It's it's incredible. So I think we recognize that, and when we're looking at some of these businesses, it's not just okay, cool, it's a Muslim business, right? It's the talent that's behind it, the ideas that are when you have some of these incubators that put all of this talent together, it's incredible. And it's not just all it's not just all fintech, it's not even just all tech, it's just so many different industries where we're seeing this talent and the innovation. I think for us, I think it's it's incredible to kind of just see that over the last 10, 15 years.
Absolutely. And I think to that, I'll add that it really started because as we were kind of working through Nama Private Wealth, we started getting referrals for Muslim founders to work with. Some of them had, mashallah, grown their companies to become unicorns. They were worth over $1 billion, but they had no financial advice for themselves. So we ended up working with a couple of founders, helping them structure their equity comp, helping them structure how to liquidate their positions as they're raising more money and giving that money out to future investors, basically. How to manage taxes for themselves, because we have access to specialty tax products as well. So that led us into the space of VC. I'd worked in private equity before. I had raised money in the past as well for a bunch of startups. So the space was not new. But then when we realized that, okay, there is potential here, it made sense to, again, do diversification for our clients by focusing on Nama Ventures, which we launched last November as a completely separate entity. It is not directly related with Nama Private Wealth. We have to keep them both completely separate, but it allows and again, because we're working with accredited investors, high net worth folks, it's easier to get them into the Nama VC side if they believe in the purpose of it. So quite honestly, that's how it started, by us working with founders to become their financial advisors. We realized that a lot of times startups that have potential to succeed miss the mark because they don't have a good financial advisor working with them that understands how their benefits should be set up, how equity comp should be set up, how they should even manage the money that they raise. You don't have to burn every single dollar that you raise. That's the old school Silicon Valley mentality. What I say is growth at all costs. I've worked in that space, doesn't work well. It crashes and burns startups. So to your point, Tanveer, that yes, that's something we were very keen on. And because of Alif Summit, Ali and I got a chance to kind of speak at that summit as well. I think ours was the last session, but it was the busiest session. Everyone stayed for that. I think also because we were partnering up with Launch Good on that one, which they do amazing work. So I think, mashallah, their good graces came to us as well, which then opened doors for us for both startups and LPs, which is the term for limited partners, as you already know, that would say, okay, how can we be part of your ecosystem to support Muslim startups? So that's where it started from. And we think there's a ton of potential over the long run there. It will be a shame not to have that as a portfolio in any high net worth clients bucket where you are supporting the Muslim ecosystem by default as well.
This is halal music to my ears, right? It's very much needed in the community. My own story, right? My motivation to start Halal Money Forum was in 2020, just like what you said. I saw some amazing talent within the Muslim community globally. I interacted with the entrepreneurs in Indonesia, Malaysia, right, in Bangladesh, all across Europe, obviously in the Americas, right? And my biggest worry was that, might be difficult for them to get the attention of mainstream VC firms, right? Who may not have a proper understanding of Islam. Maybe there's negative bias or whatnot. And Islamic fintech, they may not even get, right? And I felt that we as a community will have to do our part. And I will reiterate that I'm so impressed seeing a young batch of, entrepreneurs, many of them are Muslim, who are trailblazing fintech, inspired by their faith, right? And across multiple categories, right? It's payment companies, it's blockchain based companies, tokenization, challenger banks or digital banks, many other solutions, or a financial app. And I'm really stoked about what I'm seeing, right? Now coming back to your fund, so you're raising specific capital, which is different from your private wealth business, that will be deployed to invest in startups, right? Through Nama Ventures. Is that correct? Is that my
Correct. Yeah, Ali, I'll start with that. Yes. So what we've done was that initially we started getting inquiries as we were working with some founders. They said, "Look, I want to get involved in investing in some startups. Can you guys also help me vet them and see what you think about it?" So some of them we directly ended up investing. It's very easy to spin off an SPV, set one up, and invest in individual entities. Now we're at a stage where we're working on establishing a fund to raise money in first. And once that is done, then start deploying that into different tranches, taking advantage of startups, in the real estate space as well, taking advantage of startups that are active businesses maybe as well. So we want to kind of create a mixed fund of that I'm kind of like focused on with Ali as well. Private wealth management is more about clients' needs and wants, however they are fulfilled. The venture side is more about creating a robust method, just like you said, a platform to be able to support the Muslim ecosystem without them worrying about the fact that, hey, there isn't enough available for us because not everyone is a Sequoia or a Google venture out there. Even if we can do something on a small scale, that can make a big difference. So our focus right now is to raise money for a fund that we will structure, and then based on certain parameters, we will deploy them.
How many startups have you already invested in?
I think we've got about 6 startups only right now. We'll be finalizing 2 more soon. Yeah, so we've got 6 right now. 2 more will probably close before the end of summer, i.e. before end of August. Our goal is to do at least about 12 a year, if not more. But once, inshallah, we focus after August on raising money for our fund, then we'll have more autonomy on how many we can actually support. More the merrier, really. But alhamdulillah, so far, within a short span of time, we've been able to support about 6.
And what is the size of the check you'll typically write? And I'm assuming these are early stage, right?
Early stage is ideal. I mean, not idea stage, but early stage for sure, because you're also kind of taking advantage of the momentum of a startup that they are going to create, because once they're in revenue or they reach Series A, B status, you've lost some of that value. So our check size is really based on what the product is, what the company is doing, what stage they're at. Anywhere from 25,000, we even led around for one of them, and they ended up raising the full 350,000 for it, for example. So we wrote a check up to 350 in one case. One was 150 or 25. So I'll say minimum 25 to 50K if we're able to comfortably. And in some cases, we have led the entire round and happen to manage it in-house basically for them as well.
And these are US-based startups, right?
They're all US-based. We haven't touched any internationally yet because Ali and I are like, let's just cement everything here first. Let's create a bit of credibility on the VC side, have a little nice healthy portfolio that will show off its own success through these, mashallah, very smart, intelligent founders. And then we can explore, once we have a fund ready and the fund is active, then we can explore outside of the US as well.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
want to take this opportunity to, soft announcement that I'm working with the co-founder to launch a what we call a venture studio, primarily focused on Islamic fintech, startups.
Great.
We'll do, a few non-fintech as well, but very excited about it. I think, the appetite is there. And the idea of a venture studio came is because we'll look at certain problems and then find the entrepreneurs and deploy the capital to bring those ideas to life, right? I think there's great incubators or accelerators like Aleph. Ours is a little different, as a venture studio model, right? So we'll keep you guys posted on that, and hopefully you'll be able to collaborate in some shape or form, right?
Absolutely.
Now I want to switch gears to talk again on the overall your wealth management side. I think this. Well, I would love to invite you all back, a quarter from now, and we'll talk more startup stuff. Right? Is there a certain persona that is gravitating towards you all? Like, is it doctors or small business owners, or is it or corporate executives? And alhamdulillah, we have a very healthy community. I can talk about being in the Bay Area. So impressed to see the level of talent and the leadership in the community. Many of them writing huge P&L for the biggest names, right, in Silicon Valley. And then last week I was in the DMV area, met some of the community leaders there. Very impressed with the quality of people in the community there as well, right? I was in New York for an Islamic and IFN. IFN had an event last Tuesday. We were in Manhattan for an all-day event, met some community folks. Just very impressive. I don't want to go on and on, but as far as you guys are concerned, is there a certain niche that you'll have created, or is it very horizontal at this point?
I would say honestly, it's very diverse. Definitely in the healthcare space, in the tech space. We have a number of physicians, a lot of high level executives in the tech space, some founders as well. So I would say a very healthy mix of all of the above. Some business owners, but yeah, then we're working with groups of physicians as well. So we took on one institutional client that's a healthcare company, and then now we're having webinars and meetings with the physicians that are a part of the institution. So I think all of the above. It's been a very healthy mix.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I like you all a lot of barakah. What you're doing is, see, there is wealth managers out there, but sometimes there's a problem where their values are very different from ours, right? Right. And I don't want to get into the details and get political on this podcast. I think there is a lot of pent up demand in the community where they want to work with, they want their money to be managed by folks where the values are aligned. Right. And I think you guys have laid the foundation, and inshallah, may you all have multiples of nine, the three comma club, right? Like and multi-billion dollar portfolio, inshallah. And yeah, I think the sky is the limit. Saad, you were about to add something?
Well, to Ali's point, yes, that I think physicians are pretty much a no-brainer for us just because of their specific needs. But then, like Ali said, founders, especially successful founders who've reached a certain threshold or are about to, are our ideal client base because we understand the needs and wants. And then C-suite executives. So we have a lot of C-suite executives who work for major tech companies. They get their, RSUs, restricted stock units. They get stock options. They don't know how to manage that properly. They have a lot of bonuses and wealth coming their way. What's the best way to do that? Mitigate taxes. So C-suite execs, healthcare professionals at a high level has been pretty much the biggest piece of pie, I would say. And then we have a few people who are like either e-commerce business or others that are doing pretty well, but they certainly need a bit of help in saying, hey, can you just help me create a financial plan, a bit of an investment strategy, and am I doing things the right way? So we jump in as like a holistic consultant for them and help them kind of figure things out.
No, I'll brag about you guys. It was very cool when we were doing a prep call a few weeks ago. I think you were talking about one of your clients who had just had an exit, a healthcare company he had sold, and he was moving a significant amount of money into your account, right? So may you have many more such stories. I'll start wrapping up in a few minutes, but I want to talk a little bit about tax planning, tax strategy, right? And Saad, I think you have that background, right? Any tips or anything for the community, and when it comes to that area? Of course, it's very personalized these days, right?
Yes.
And it's a two-part question. Do you individually or as a firm do any like master classes or events specifically around that topic?
Great question. So I'll go with reverse and Ali chime in wherever. We haven't done any master classes yet, but people have asked for them as our clients are seeing the results of what tax planning we're doing for them. So inshallah, happy to collaborate with you on that and do some because we work with some very high-class specialists who work with high net worth, ultra high net worth people that we kind of work with to build tax planning strategies. So we always tell our clients that look, January 1st till April 15th is tax filing season. Tax planning season starts from April 16th till December 1st. During that time, you are tax planning on how to mitigate your tax liabilities for the following year, basically. So I studied accounting, I studied taxation as well, but then of course fell in the wealth management space. So now with our clients, when we come across the high net worth clients, as part of our service to them is we actually end up working with the CPAs as well. So we don't want them just to be told by the CPA that, oh, we just file your taxes and boom, you're done. Literally, we just received a 1040 from a client for last year, and this person is going to pay multiple six figures in taxes. They've been working with us since last year, but they didn't want to focus on tax planning. They were more concerned about their portfolio, their investments. What are we doing for the kids? Can I have a trust? Well, like estate planning includes tax planning as well. And it turns out they have to pay multi six figures out of their pocket, which a substantial amount could have been avoided with the right high level tax planning strategy. So there are certain strategies that can be implemented pretty quickly, some that takes a bit of time. And that's why I would tell people January 1st to April 15th is just tax filing season. That's about it pretty much. Tax planning starts day after tax filing season ends basically till end of the year. And that's what we come in pretty much at a fairly high level to make sure we're doing a lot of hand holding for our clients to make sure that irrespective of how much money they're earning, or like you had said, yes, one of our clients had exited, but fortunately, because we were working with that individual prior to their exit, we were able to bake in enough tax planning strategies for them that it did not impact their exit tax liability on their pocket. Otherwise, it would have substantially more just because of the stage that individual had joined that company, for instance. So those sort of things are really important. I think it's starting to change that trend. And Ali, I don't know what you think about this, but I think more people now are talking to us about, hey, I have a CPA, they only do my tax filing. Can you guys do tax planning for me? So the topic is eventually starting to come up, which is a good thing. We don't wait for people to ask that question. We ask them that question when we are vetting them to see that are we a good fit for them or not. So estate planning and tax planning are key factors for us to be able to work with someone as well to make sure we can provide them that.
Yeah, and I'll just add that from our experience, we've noticed that tax advisors and CPAs, they're not very proactive. So what Saad and I do is by working together with our clients, CPAs and tax advisors, a lot of times we come up with different ideas and propose different solutions directly to their CPAs and say, hey, what about this? Can we do this? Right. And a lot of times you'll see the CPA saying, well, yeah, that's a great suggestion. We can definitely do that. And again, we've had clients, for example, that were selling investment properties and their tax advisor did not notify them that, hey, you have some potential capital gains that if you do a section 1031, you could avoid those capital gains by reinvesting it, right? So, we've talked about how we have different solutions for that as well, right? So it's not just finding another property. You can actually have a investment vehicle that's 1031 eligible that we could provide that they can roll that into. So it's stuff like that of us being proactive directly with our clients, letting them know of different tax codes that they may be eligible for, that may fit, and then working with their tax advisors and CPAs.
Great. I chair an event, and I would, the Halal Money Forum would love to partner with an entity like NAMA to do this, right? So a few months ago, a very well-known CPA in the Indian community did a seminar on tax planning and strategy in person. He had like 1,000 people, right? And the Indian community is very they financially, professionally, they've done very well, and they will very a lot of hunger for hey, how could I best protect my wealth, grow my wealth, etc. And I would love to do a halal version of that. We can talk offline to see if we could do like a half a day event with it could be a mini version of a master class around tax planning, etc. So if you guys are open to it, we can definitely talk offline, right?
100%, we would love to do that. Yes.
It'll be a great value to the community, right? Inshallah. Now I want to come to another topic. Startups is very dear to me, but community development is also very dear to me. Last Saturday, I hosted 14th, not last Saturday, but the Saturday before last, June 14th, I hosted episode 4 of the Halal Money Show. It was dedicated to real estate. We had Irshad Bhai from Stern Salam Bank, the president of Stern Salam Bank, and he had 2 of his clients on the show. One was the Muslim Association of Puget Sound, and they spoke about how they leveraged financing from Stern Salam Bank, Islamic financing, to build a beautiful, $45 million community center. The other was with a developer who's doing 2 projects or multiple projects. One of them are high-end homes in Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago. And the other is elderly care, housing, right? Housing for the elderly, which is a very big gap in the community, right? So a very impactful session. The reason I'm saying this is because the work I do to the Halal Money Forum, I get to go to different communities, and there's some amazing projects coming up, right? You mentioned about the ethical lifestyle or the halal lifestyle condo development in
Yeah.
Florida. Another community of doing a top of the line innovation hub, right? Where there's a co-working space, there's a community center, and it's top of the line. We have something like that in the Bay Area called Plug and Play, which is very startup focused, but this is a lot more than just a tech center, right? So co-working place, incubation center, amazing meeting place on a 10-acre property surrounded by natural beauty, and so that was a very good project, and there's many others like that. I want to talk to you about the work you all are doing in real estate, and do you see an entity like Nama being involved in some of the equity financing in projects like that? And what can we do to potentially create awareness so enough capital also flows into projects like that?
Ali, this is your floor, man. You're the real estate expert on our team. So I'll let you do the
I mean,
talking.
we're in California, so we understand how important real estate is. That's a huge part of wealth, especially in our community in California on the West Coast, right? I noticed that growing up in the Midwest in Chicago, being a little bit closer to the East Coast, it was always more about what's in my 401k, my stock portfolio, and how's Wall Street doing. And then when I moved out west, it's completely different dynamic, right? It's more about their real estate portfolios because the West Coast, that's where you see a lot of generational wealth is from the real estate side. Yeah, real estate's a big piece of what we do. It's another, very important asset class for us. And yeah, we're constantly looking at different real estate opportunities wherever they may be. We're not limited to real estate investments in California. It could be anywhere. But yeah, I would love to, have further discussions on that with you, inshallah.
No, that'll be great. Even in California, very nice to see one of the prominent masjids buy out an entire like a gym and it's a I would call it a gym and a fitness center and a whole lot more, right? And they've acquired it. Now they're renovating it. I think it's going to become a very prominent hub in that part of Orange County, right? And I would
Yes.
love to see more and more of such projects come to life. And we also have like separate hours or a separate swimming pool for ladies because of Islamic reasons or cultural reasons. There has to be a little bit of they want their own space, right? And I think there'll be a huge need for funding, and I also feel there will be a strong appetite in the community to invest in such projects, right? So we want to do our part to to create awareness around such projects. Hey, this has been a great conversation. Like I mentioned, we'd love for you all to come back for a sequel, but to talk about again the progress that you're making, the work you're doing with startups, etc. Final thoughts? Was there anything that you were hoping I would ask that I did not ask, or any advice you want to leave our audience with?
And I would just say that we'd be honored to be back. We're honored to be on now, and I love this conversation. I think it's there's so much more we could talk about, but I know we had limited time today. So no, I think most importantly, I think the message for us is always just we see the demand from the community of having more resources, having more options for them, and whether it's specific lifestyle, whether it's ways they invest their money. I think I'd encourage everyone that just look and you'll start to find different resources for you. So no, we're excited. Alhamdulillah. We're excited to invest into different startups. We're excited to help members of the community just do what's important to them. And no, we're excited. We're excited to be on again.
Absolutely. Same here. I think it's more about, earn and return. That's the strategy. You're earning good money, make sure you're returning it back to the community as well, whether it's through a donor advice fund, through a charitable lead trust, through helping your nonprofit set up a waqf, basically, if need be. We're doing a bit of that work right now with a few nonprofits that we're excited about. So I think there's just a lot of, mashallah, exciting movements that are happening within our communities, especially with the generational shift as well. So we're excited to be, sometimes you just have to be at the right place at the right time. And that's just how I feel like we started Nama, that our timing was, alhamdulillah, could not have been any more perfect based on what's been going on around us. So we're really excited about everything that's happening within the Muslim ecosystem right now, and that we're a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
This was a great conversation. Nama PW as in private wealth, right? NAMAPW.com is your website. And I remember your email is saad at namapw.com. And is it Ali? Ali, yours is Ali at namapw.com?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So any of the listeners, you want to reach out to them, you could email them in the video. I'll try to put in your LinkedIn profiles if that's okay with you all. This was great. Do pencil in September 13th and 14th if you're able to join us at the Halal Money Conference in New York and New Jersey. We'd love to see you there. And November 14th and 15th in the Bay Area. Obviously, we'll touch base, and I can't wait to come down to Orange County and meet you all in person, inshallah.
We're looking forward to it, inshallah.
My best wishes. Nama become a household name within the
I mean,
community and beyond. Keep up the great work you're doing. Very excited about what you're doing, and I can already see the impact. And I think this will be the impetus for some great things in the community and for families, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you, Tanveer bhai.
thank you for having us. So much.
All right, all the best.
Like